Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Boyle Stadium in Stamford. I'm Rob Adams, joined alongside Donald N., my Nutmeg Sports co-host, and Dave Stewart, my FCIAC compadre of the week, as we get ready for the 2015 FCIAC Championship game and the Turkey Bowl, the 50th anniversary of the FCIAC Championship game between the Darien Blue Wave and the New Canaan Rams, and it'll be right here at Boyle Stadium. We always call it the cradle of FCIAC football, and really the very cradle of Connecticut football, named for Michael Boyle, who was a longtime, very successful coach as well as an athletic director, and it's going to be great to be here and watch these teams tomorrow. And Dave, I will turn to you first. I mean, finally, as we get into this reporters roundtable with all these great guys that we've got on hand here today, we're able to break the game down a bit, talk about the state, and finally start saying who's going to win this game.
It's been too long. It's been too long since the last weekend of
like
the season.
Super Bowl.
It really is. It really is, and everybody's itching to get this started.
Everybody is itching to get started, Don, and you've been to this facility before many years ago for a playoff game, a state playoff game, but this really, I love this place. I've made that very clear over the years.
You know, it's an amazing facility. And for the capacity, it feels small, it feels intimate. You know, you can see apartment buildings lining the perimeter. It's just a great place and a great game that we've got coming. We've been looking forward to it. It seems like for months now, and it's finally here. It's finally going to happen.
And it's a show that will be filled with not only the great reporters from the HAN network, but great friends that we've come to make over the years that are going to join us from outside of the HAN network, as well as some taped interviews that we did, and we've got some great stuff in there as well. Too many times I'm saying great, Dave, but all good stuff coming up.
It's all good stuff, and the New Canaan and Darien rivalry is perfect for this. You know, they've had a couple of times at Boyle Stadium here the last couple of years. The Snow Bowl, of course, 2 years ago. Always a packed house and always a fun game.
And if you have not purchased the broadcast yet, it's championships.han.network. You can do so. Go right there, and you can join us tomorrow. Now, that's what we're doing today. We've got this roundtable here with all these people that have come out and joined us today. Tomorrow, we will start with a pregame show at 8 o'clock, which will feature a lot of what you'll see today as well as yesterday and Monday and some other elements that we've thrown in. Then at 10 o'clock, Dave will be right back along with Chris Callan, who will bring you a pregame show to line you all up for the play-by-play of the big game. And Chris Irway and I will be right up behind us, right up in those windows as we have the call of tomorrow's game. What are you looking forward to, Don, as we get to look toward tomorrow?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is the matchup of the two premier players in the FCIAC, Collins, Ivanchik, and the way it works. It's usually when you have the two premier players, they're both play quarterback or they're both something else, and they're not on the field at the same time. In this case, you have a down the field throwing quarterback and a speed rushing defensive end that will be squaring off against each other. So that to me is the matchup to watch for. The two premier players going head to head. One guy trying to get the ball down the field to his receivers, the other guy trying like heck to stop him.
And you got to figure there's got to be a way to neutralize both of them, but let's not forget about Timmy Graham as well of Darien.
Yeah, MVP last year, and he's thrown great this year, 26 touchdowns, only one interception, and that was in a game that was obviously a blowout. They've had all blowouts this year. So, they've got good players all on both sides of the ball on both teams.
So we've got a lot to do on this show. As I mentioned, we've got our HAN reporters. We've got the non-HAN reporters. We also have a great interview that was already recorded with three members of, two from Stanford Catholic, one from Rippewam. You might have heard their names. They're kind of great names in the FCIAC. Rick Robustelli, Bennett Salvatore, and Bobby Valentine. So we will run that in a little bit as well. So a lot to do, including a chat with Christopher Mad Dog Russo. So a great show lined up as a dragonfly lands right in front of me. So that just seems to be
that good luck?
Fate. I think so. I think there's something fate or luck about that. But in any event, we also taped an interview earlier today, Josh Fisher and Kate Chaplinsky did, with the first selectmen of each town, Darien and New Canaan. And, of course, it's Rob Malazzi in New Canaan and Jamie Stevenson in Darien. We'll take a look at that right now.
Welcome to Boyle Stadium here in beautiful Stamford, Connecticut. Along with Kate Chaplinsky, I'm Josh Fisher, and we're joined by the leaders of the two towns that will be battling here tomorrow in the form of a football game. Jamie Stevenson, first selectman of Darien, and Rob Malazzi, the first selectman of New Canaan. Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's great to have. And Rob, you normally are busy on Thanksgiving morning, but you're actually going to be here for the Turkey Bowl tomorrow.
I'm going to be here. My family's participated in Meals on Wheels for the last 8 years, Christmas and Thanksgiving and other times, and we've made a change, and we're going to be here. We're going to be here for this game for sure.
That's great. Now, Jamie, you and the Darien Blue Wave are riding a 3-game win streak in the Turkey Bowl, defending FCIAC champions. What are your thoughts about tomorrow?
I think we're going to continue our record tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. We have a fantastic team. We're very deep. We have some really outstanding senior talent, outstanding coaching staff. The boys are really excited. The school spirit is very high, and we're looking forward to a beautiful Thanksgiving with good, healthy competition with our friends from New Canaan.
Right. And Rob, what's your prediction?
Same. I feel really strongly about New Canaan's chances tomorrow. I know we've had come up a little short the last few Thanksgivings. They've been phenomenal games. I expect the same. And to Jamie's point, the enthusiasm in our towns and in our high schools and amongst the athletes is just it's palatable, absolutely palatable, and that'll really show itself right here. And I'm looking forward for a really exciting morning.
Yeah, this will be the third time that these two teams have met here in this very stadium in the 50-year history of the FCIAC Championship. Wow. And this place just fills up. In 2008, they had 10,000 people here. Last year, it was very, very cold, and we had about 6,500 people show up. But the stands are decked in red on one side and blue on the other side. And I know there's a little bit more, right, along with bragging rights, everything like that. You guys traditionally do a little wager. Jamie, what's the bet this year?
Absolutely. Friendly wager to benefit both of our towns. This year, Rob and I have agreed that we will support each other's human service departments with a little $100 wager, and matched by the generosity of Han Network.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be matching that. And Rob, what can you tell us? What does the Human Services do for the town of New Canaan?
You name it. They're there for the folks that are most vulnerable in our towns. So they support the food bank. They support oil deliveries for folks that are having trouble making their payments for oil and utilities. They're just there for all those folks that happen to fall through the gap, even in nice towns like New Canaan and Darien. I know her department does a great job. My department does too. It's a wonderful, wonderful way for us to give some thanks and some support to those folks.
Jamie, what's one of the biggest things that the Human Services does in Darien?
I echo what Rob said. Our departments are very similar, but for those of us that come into the holiday season excited and joyful and blessed, there's a lot of people in both of our communities that people don't realize are struggling. They're struggling to put food on the table, to keep their houses warm, so our human service departments try and make their time a little bit easier.
Wow, such a great cause. And now switching gears, Rob, I heard a rumor that you grew up in Darien. So how do you reconcile those two sides of things for this big game?
It's pretty easy, and it goes back to the beginning, about 3 or 4 years ago when Jamie became first selectman and I became first selectman. We'd known each other when we were in the selectman's positions. And I thought, what a great way to just solidify the friendship and to recognize what's going on here by having this friendly bet. And for me, it keeps me focused on New Canaan's win. But I moved to New Canaan in 1993. I've been bleeding red since that point, so it's easy for me. The only thing that is hard is seeing so many of my friends that I grew up with at Darien here at the game and not being able to watch with them and not being able to share in their excitement when they do great things, or for them to share in mine when New Canaan does great things. But it's really a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. And Jamie, how would you characterize the energy during the game? Like, what's it like to be here? It's going to be my first Turkey Bowl, so I have no idea. Tell us a little bit about that.
Wow. Well, you're in for a treat, especially if the weather's going to be nice. We're going to have a packed house. And I think first, visually, it's awesome to be here because we've got the red and black and we've got the blue and white. So from a team spirit and colors perspective, it couldn't be, really more magical in terms of Thanksgiving Day friendly rivalries. I do want to say, if you don't mind, big thanks to the city of Stamford for letting us come here and having our competition in the city tomorrow.
It's nice that it's on a neutral ground too, and this is one of the largest football stadiums in the state too, and you need a big area to gather up all those fans. But Rob, the turkey. This will be the 22nd Turkey Bowl, so it's become this really rich tradition for these two rivals to get together, like all the rivals across Connecticut on Thanksgiving. What does this rivalry, as someone who's lived on both sides of it, mean?
I can just say, as an athlete, I was a hockey player for Darien High School, and just thinking back my memories from high school, I mean, you didn't sleep the night before. It's all you thought about the week. I mean, the practices were so focused. The coaching was so intense. The banter was so much. It totally consumed everything about that week. We played New Canaan, sorry, twice during hockey during the regular season, and it was a home and away series. It was just amazing. So I can only imagine what this is like. But again, as I said earlier, it's palatable in our communities. It's not just the athletes. It's the merchants getting involved and decorating their windows. It's the gas station guys. It's just everyone feeling it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing I like to remember, too, is the experience that the players and coaches have on Thanksgiving Day. All their family and friends come out, and these are the things that life memories are made of. So it's a really special time.
Yeah. It's very Americana,
Really?
this coming together, and always a lot of fun. Thank you both for coming and meeting on neutral ground with us. We couldn't decide which town to get it together. So,
Do you each have a final message for the players tomorrow?
My message is this: take inspiration from our women's field hockey team. They just won the state championship last Saturday. We're really proud of them. They were a great inspirational team, and I think our football players should take any lesson from that championship and bring it to this field against Darien tomorrow.
And I would just add to the players, have fun. It's a game. Let's keep it all in perspective and be gracious with your win or with your loss.
well, thanks, Rob Malazzi, Jamie Stevenson, First Selectman of New Canaan and Darien. Thanks for joining Kate and me here, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be back after this.
Thank you, folks.
At Innovative Health and Rehabilitation, we provide an advanced level of care to resolve symptoms and minimize recurrence. Our experienced professional staff design and implement effective plans to return individuals to their prior level of function. We specialize in the treatment of orthopedic and sports injuries, pre-post surgical rehabilitation, performance enhancement, strength and conditioning, vestibular rehabilitation, balance and gait training. A convenient location and flexible scheduling is available to accommodate your needs. We look forward to providing you with a comprehensive level of care to meet your rehabilitation goals. We are also affiliated with 3 high schools, Norwalk, West Hill, and Stamford. Our certified athletic trainers cover the athletic events at the high schools to prevent, treat, and educate student athletes and injuries. Our certified athletic trainers also take part in the New Canaan Youth Football Program. Reach us at 650 West Avenue in Norwalk. Call us at 203-852-9903. Innovative Health and Rehabilitation.
This fall for our red panda. That's right. Rashawn the red panda will be visiting the Beardsley Zoo for a limited time. Resembling raccoons, red pandas primarily eat bamboo, but will occasionally eat fruits, berries, young leaves, and certain tree bark, like their better-known black and white cousins. As an adult, Rashawn is expected to weigh 10 to 12 pounds, and you can see him at the South American Rainforest exhibit, Connecticut's Beardsley Zoo of Bridgeport. A whole new experience. 875 Noble Avenue, Bridgeport. 203-394-6565.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN network.
The 2015 FCIAC Football Championship on Thanksgiving morning will match the New Canaan Rams and the Darien Blue Wave. It's the 50th anniversary edition of the big game, as well as the annual Turkey Bowl. The HAN Network is your exclusive home for all of the action. Our coverage will begin at 8 a.m. with FCIAC Championship game day, followed by pregame coverage at 10. Kickoff is at 10:30. The live video streaming broadcast is available on pay-per-view at championships.han.network. Our thanks to the First Selectmen of both Darien and New Canaan for joining us here at Boyle Stadium this morning. Great stuff from them. So we had a good time with Jamie Stevenson, Rob Malazzi, as well as Josh Fisher and Kate Chaplinsky, as I'm now joined by 2 of our non-brethren, but I consider them brothers anyway because we're all media partners around these parts, Sean Patrick Bowley and Scott Erickson. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming out here today.
Yeah, great to be here, Rob.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Appreciate it. Beautiful day.
All right, let's take a look around at kind of the larger state picture as we get ready for Thanksgiving Day and all the abacus comes out and we slide all the numbers around and we get an idea of what's what come Friday, although we have a pretty good idea already, don't we?
Well, it depends on what league you're talking about, or what division you're talking about. I mean, yeah, we have an idea of who's going to be where if they win, but there's a lot of little, positioning and as you say, moving of the beads on the abacus around depending on who wins and who. I mean, Thanksgiving Day is great because every single game in the state has some sort of meaning for somebody, even if it's like your 2 0-10 teams or 0-9 teams playing, it still means somebody for bonus points to get into the playoffs. But for the most part, we know who our qualifiers are, and we're just kind of waiting to see who wins on Thanksgiving.
Scott, it's been I can't even put an adjective on what kind of year it's been without it being the nicest of words, the not nicest of words. We have not had a great year of football in this state.
It just feels disjointed, I mean, there's been individual games that have been good, and I think once we get to the state tournament, some of these matchups are really exciting, and I think can really save the season. I mean, you look in Class S, you could have Ansonia playing Trinity. That's an awesome game if that ever happens, or if one of those teams plays Bloomfield too. That would really be a fun game. And the L matchups and the double L matchups are like off the charts as far as how good those could be, especially once you get to the semifinals.
Has Trinity Catholic's success surprised you?
No, I mean, I think I said at the beginning of the year I thought they'd be the third best team in the FCIAC. I thought they could even go unbeaten. They lost the one game to Greenwich that was very close. Doesn't surprise me at all. They have a very good quarterback, very good line, and I would be surprised if they're not playing for a championship in Class S.
Sean, we see so much of the FCIAC. I know you see more of the larger picture, including out toward the Valley and the SEC and all. And you've been very pointed on Twitter saying it has not been a good year in football. Tell me why and tell me how we can save this season.
Well, I mean, the playoffs, like Scott said, the playoffs are pretty much a big deal. I mean, if the playoffs we don't have the 8 champions like we did last year. We have 4 champions, and if the teams can all, get the matchups we want, and if we can all have a great couple rounds of playoffs and great championship games, I think that's the way the season can be solved. But you're right, it hasn't been great, and a lot of the reasons why, it just seems to be a lot of bitterness out there, at least from my perspective. You see teams forfeiting. We had the Berlin situation, which was ridiculous. Yeah. We had an investigation into Bloomfield, which, I mean, I guess it's been resolved. We haven't heard anything from CIAC on that. But there have been reports by some of the news stations, TV stations, that was resolved. You had the Cog and Chog thing up in Durham, where the whole coaching staff completely just left the team after some parents got kind of chippy with them. And it's just been overall, the malaise has just been. It's not been a good season. I even put on Twitter where it was like the worst season, top 10 worst seasons that I've ever covered. The top 9 were this season. It's just been bad.
and the Bassick situation as well. Yeah. I mean, that got crazy. But at the same time, and this is just the way the system works, Harding has been a great story. Now it's non-FCIAC, but I mean, Harding, that's a great story to see them doing as well as they're doing.
Harding is in line to host an L playoff game. I mean, that is unbelievable. It wouldn't have happened if they were in the FCIAC, but they'd improved a lot anyway. They would have been a good team. They would have been very competitive in the FCIAC, but moving leagues for them was just incredible. And in some ways, they could be hosting New Canaan. If New Canaan loses to Darien and things work out right, New Canaan could be up at. I guess they'd be
at Kennedy Stadium.
Hosting New Canaan in a state playoff game. Unbelievable turnaround for them. They have great athletes, and that's awesome for Harding.
Yeah, it really is. All right. I got to get around to something with you, and I consider you a friend, so we'll get that out of the way. But you've been a very pointed critic of this game, and that this game will be played or continued. What are your thoughts coming into this, looking at tomorrow, and looking at the future?
I'm not a critic of this game because it's a regular season game. I'm more, everyone's like really silent around me now. I'm more, here's the two things. Number one, the CIAC, as those guys will say, have come down on lessening the amount of games that kids play over the course of a season. So they put this rule in where you can't even run scrimmages now, which has taken away the FCIAC's ability to run an independent game. Now, if we had played this last week, it would have justified the 9-game schedule that everyone has. Kids want to play as many games as possible, and I think you're just playing 9 games. It's just not. It just doesn't feel like a full season. So the FCIAC had to make that move. I disagreed with it. I'm just like, at this point, just forget about it. They're not going to change. Now, I do have criticisms with the CIAC rule because what is the difference between an FCIAC championship and a preseason scrimmage? There really isn't any. Just let them play the game. I get it if they want to continue. But there are guys up there in the medical community that said that, you can't even do that. And it won't even count. So if that's the way it's going to be, then just forget it, because the end of the day, the prize is the state championship. The end of the regular season in the FCIAC, we basically know who's the best team going to be, give or take. I think for the last 15 years, the two best teams have always played at some point during the season, if not on Thanksgiving. And in this case, that's what we're going to get anyway. So, yeah, here we go.
I remain a pretty big fan of this game personally. What do you think?
I've always enjoyed the game. I love the game, but it can't exist in the current climate. I think the 9-game schedule was weak. I think it was hard for teams having byes. I mean, Stanford High hasn't played now in 20 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Heading into their Thanksgiving game. St. Joe's started really late. And if the CIAC is really concerned about safety, then they shouldn't be running playoffs Tuesday, Saturday. I mean, that's the most hypocritical thing they do. They get rid of scrimmages where kids could be learning the game. And maybe the games would be better this year if these kids had more scrimmages and more time to play in the off season. But then they're going to keep that in there. So maybe it's about them making money. And
I agree with that. It is a little hypocritical. I mean, you're playing, 3 games within space of 10, 13, whatever it is. And, like I said, it's not much different at the beginning of the season either. You're playing scrimmages, but that doesn't count. So what's the difference if they play the FCIAC Championship? But again, like if they continue to have this, and if it's going to be at the expense of 10 games in the regular season for the rest of the league with all these buys and everything, I think you just, and it stinks because it's been 50 years. It's got a great tradition and all. So.
All right, last question, because I always come around to it with you. Best FCIAC uniform.
Wow, best FCIAC uniform this year. There's been so many good ones. I really like Danbury's uniform. They don't get talked about a lot. New Canaan and Darien and Greenwich always are mixing it up. But Danbury's got a really cool helmet. Got some nice coloring on the jersey. I'll go with Danbury.
All right. Best state uniform.
Best state uniform? I'm going to have to go with Harding.
Nice.
Hardings are really
the all gold is pretty good.
They're fly. They're really the gold and blue, and the massive eagle, the presidential eagle with the very embroidered. It's beautiful. They look nice. They're hard in the eyes though. Maybe that's why they're 9-0.
We'll see them again before the end of the show. Scott Erickson, Sean Patrick Bowley. Let's send it across now to Dave Stewart. Dave.
Thanks, Rob. And I just want to point out that Scott now has covered 100 FCIAC games this season. By the way, I've seen him a few times every weekend, so it's been he's done a great job. I'm here with Bill Bloxham, Mike Seppi, and Rocco Bluzzo, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the games coming up here. We've looked at the state picture, and there's 21 teams have clinched. 11 spots still up for grabs. How do you guys feel about the state picture? Bill, I'll start with you.
I just thought it was an interesting season because a lot of teams had the good starts. Or, Foreign High opened up 5-0 in Milford, and then they ran into a couple of very, very good teams in North Haven and in West Haven, and then they had a flip game with Hill House, which is also looking to qualify, and they lost that one, and now they're sitting there. They're going to play Jonathan Law in Milford on Thanksgiving, and they're going to need a lot of help, even going 7-3. But I'm fine with that because I think you have to, 8-2. That would have proven that they can beat one of the top 3, and that'll get them in the playoffs. But then, when you start looking at the seedings and the other teams that are in there, you go, well, gee, they would have beat 4 of the teams that are already ahead of them. So it is a little strange there. But then you have Shelton, which Mike can talk about, that has just had a fabulous year, and they'll be going.
Mike, we'll talk about Shelton a little bit. Obviously, they're having a great year, and have, I believe, Derby tomorrow. And how good are they, and how far can they go?
Well, I mean, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries this year. Basically, since the preseason, they've had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. As Coach Jeff Roy says, it's next man up mentality for them. And they've lost, Chris Canios, their great receiver. Their quarterback, Zach Toskowski, has missed time with a bad ankle. They've lost the Kirk brothers at times. But, I mean, they just get the next guy in there, and they've been doing well. They enter that game against Derby, clinched for a quarterfinal round game, with, I believe, the top seed in tow. And Derby against them, it's a game they've won quite a few times in a row. I'm not sure how many off the top of my head. I think it's 9 or 10 in a row against Derby they've won. But, Derby is a team. They have a good running back and Ricky Bartone that can maybe give them some trouble out there. I mean, I'm assuming the game plan for Derby is going to be try to control the ball
clock management.
And the clock management there, where, try to keep it close and maybe try to pick Shelton off, maybe catch them, maybe looking ahead to the state playoffs might be their best opportunity. I mean, Derby has already secured a winning season, which is a good thing for them. And I mean, Shelton, it's just, this game is, if it's a game that's going to be a trap game for them, that could be it. But again, I mean, it's a team they haven't looked past many opponents this year, as they're on a quest basically to atone for what happened last year in the Double L title game where they, had that tough loss to Xavier.
Just want to talk a little bit about the Valley just while we're there, because you have Woodland, you have Seymour, you have Derby, you have Ansonia, all winning programs this year, which is, really good to see for all those kids working hard like that. And Seymour, with a win over Woodland, can get on tonight, can get a berth in the playoffs as well.
Great year for them. Double L has 3 undefeated teams: Shelton, Southington, Darien. Mike, go back to you. How does Shelton stack up there?
Well, I mean, if they get out of this game uninjured, I mean, I like their chances against anybody in the state. I mean, they're a team that's been there in the past, a team that is used to challenging for titles against other teams that are also used to challenging for titles. But, I mean, any one of Southington and Darien have been 2 teams that have been up in the top of the state rankings too, along with Shelton. I mean, you basically flip a coin when any one of the different matchups between those 3 teams would happen. I mean, I'd pay good money to watch either one of those games, to be honest.
Rocco does a lot of the SWC stuff. What's the picture for them?
Well, for the SWC, as far as the Turkey Bowl game tomorrow, we've got Barlow and Weston playing, basically for pride. And this is the rivalry game. But as far as the playoffs are concerned for the state, so you've got Newtown and Double L, which is a perpetual, a team there. You've got Brookfield and M, which actually won last season, and New Fairfield is in the mix this year too for M. So that's
New Fairfield beat Newtown. So
and ever since New Fairfield lost, I believe, Brookfield on the opening day of the season. It's made quite a tear in the league, and the way it stands now, I believe if it beats New Milford tomorrow, it can win the SWC Championship.
Yep, unofficial.
Yeah. You mentioned pride too, and there's been years actually going back a little bit where Darien and New Canaan haven't been playing for anything other than pride. It's amazingly enough. What does Thanksgiving football mean? To me, it's always seemed like it's a playoff game for teams that aren't going to the playoffs.
Yes, exactly, Dave. That's how they view it at a lot of these schools. In Weston and Barlow. Yeah, of course, a few years ago, when they were both in contention for spots in the Class M playoffs, they were more rivalry games. But the past couple seasons, it's been basically for bragging rights, and there's both small programs in terms of numbers too.
Yeah. Yep. So, how do you guys feel about Thanksgiving football here? I mean, the feeling on these days, just it seems like with all the alumni coming back and all the former players, former friends, just everybody getting back, seems like a big gathering. It's very fun.
It's the biggest thing in football in this state. I understand the premise that win state titles is what it's all about, but for 50 years before that, before they were determining state titles, and they just had media polls, choosing things like that, including the '65 FCIAC game between Rippewam and Stanford Catholic. Back then they were just talking about, the reporters would sit down later and talk about that, but you'd have all the high schools in the state playing on Thanksgiving for everything. And that's when the stands are, that's where the playoffs are, and Thanksgiving Day football for everyone else but those few teams that make the finals is its state championship game.
Yeah, the majority of the teams really, even though we have 32 getting in, the majority are not going to the playoffs. So this is the big moment for them.
Exactly.
So anyway, we're gonna take a break, and we'll be back after this on the HAN network.
While the temperatures are cooling down, the fall bite is heating up. Albies, bonita, blackfish, alligator blues, and stripers are following the large schools of bait that are abundant in the Long Island Sound. If you love the New England coast during autumn, this is the time to be on the water. The latest from Shimano, Quantum, Avet, Hoagie, Phase 2 and more are in stock and ready to go at the Dock Shop. And don't mind those fall breezes with jackets, hats, gloves, and fleece from Grundens and Stormer. The Dock Shop will keep you warm and dry. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
giving back to hometown banking. To a partner that makes small businesses feel big. Where community comes first. Where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch. Where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver. Where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Hi, I'm Rob Adams with my good friend Donald Eng, and we're the home team for Nutmeg Sports, Monday through Wednesday at 2 o'clock right here on the HAN Network. We are the place for all things Connecticut sports, so come hang out with us on Nutmeg Sports. Don? They don't call him the best color man in the game for nothing. Nutmeg Sports, 2 o'clock, Monday through Wednesday, right here on the HAN Network. The 2015 FCIAC Football Championship on Thanksgiving morning will match the New Canaan Rams and the Darien Blue Wave. It's the 50th anniversary edition of the big game, as well as the annual Turkey Bowl. The HAN Network is your exclusive home for all of the action. Our coverage will begin at 8 a.m. with FCIAC Championship game day, followed by pregame coverage at 10. Kickoff is at 10:30. The live video streaming broadcast is available on pay-per-view at championships.han.network. Welcome back to Boyle Stadium, our special FCIAC and really state football roundtable with these various reporters. I'm Rob Adams, Dave Stewart co-hosting at the other table. We'll bring Dave back in as well as Don Eng in a little bit. But first of all, a couple of guys I don't get to talk to a whole lot, and that's one of the things that's been so great about this is to welcome in both Pete Pagwaga and Dave Rudin. And Dave, you and I are so long overdue to share a microphone and finally talk. So thank you for your time, first of all. And you know, we've been kind of harsh on this football season. What are your thoughts as we stand here today?
Well, thanks for having me. I've been waiting for the invite. But,
welcome aboard. Here we are.
You know, it's just you have two teams that are so much better than everybody else. So usually in the past you've had Darien, New Canaan have been the top teams, but they've been tested. Staples, St. Joseph, Trumbull, Trinity Catholic, some of the teams that Ridgefield that are usually strong, they're still good teams. They're just not at that level. So it's been real disappointing. And a lot of what Sean said before, too, you have the 9-game schedule. You've had the byes. There's been little traction. I think it's just a perfect storm of things that just really slowed the season. And we've really been looking at these two runaway trains that are coming at each other. And tomorrow they finally hit.
Pete, you know, you're still fairly new to the FCIAC in a lot of ways. Yep. I know you were excited, and you and I have talked. Yeah. You were excited to get involved in the FCIAC and cover it. And here we are in this season. All right, has it been fun, first of all?
I mean, yeah, it's been a fun time. You know, it's always good football, but it was just it was just long because there were so many byes, and it was just slow, and you really never kind of got into a rhythm. But, you know, like Sean and Scott said earlier, you know, once the playoffs hit, you know, all bets are off and it should be an exciting time.
You know, we've been kind of cursed with a schedule of really a lot of blowouts. In fact, our one really close game on the air was a non-FCIAC game that was Notre Dame of Fairfield and Weston. Everything else we saw has just been, you know, 45-17, Dave. It just has been this kind of season where we can't seem to find a really good game. So all that said, what's been your favorite game of the season so far?
Boy, it's really been tough. I guess just because of the controversy and because it was close, I would go with the Trinity Catholic Norwalk game. You had the controversial, was it a touchdown, wasn't a touchdown reception by Johnny Summers, and it was kind of a zoo-like atmosphere after. So you had a little bit of controversy, but really, as you were saying, there haven't been close games. That was a close game. That touchdown decided the game. So that probably I would say, my favorite game of the year so far.
Pete, same.
Favorite game that I've been to, it had to be Norwalk and Greenwich. You know, Greenwich, you know, came in, you know, a lot of talk earlier this year. Norwalk kind of, you know, flew under the radar, especially after the loss against Trinity that kind of hit some hard times. And that was just a really good game. Greenwich, you know, runs out the clock and wins by a score. Norwalk kept coming back. It was a real back and forth game. And as you said, at least it wasn't a blowout. So that's definitely what made it the best game that I've seen.
That is an advantage. You know, Dave, you've seen several FCIAC championship games, as have I. This is the 50th tomorrow. Yes, all the talk about the history. Yes, all the talk about the CIAC concussions and all of that. I'm a guy who wants to see it continue, and I hope we find a way to do it. Your thoughts as we look into tomorrow?
I'm a huge fan of the FCIAC Championship. I mean, we're going to have 10,000 people here. You had Bobby Valentine and Rick Robustelli and Bennett on before. They were here in front of 10,000 people. I just think it doesn't make sense to have a league and then not have a league championship. That being said, I think the CIAC has basically put the FCIAC in a corner. If you're only going to be able to play 10 games in a regular season, I just think it's really, really unfair to tell 14 of the 17 teams you're only going to be able to play 9 games. And I think if you're going to have to pick one or the other, I think you have to let everybody play 10 games, and you're going to have to shelf the FCIAC Championship, as much as I would really, really hate to see that happen. I just think it's really the CIAC's fault more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. They tend to play kind of the black hat in this case. You've had the outside view, now you've got the inside view. Has anything changed in your world from where you were to where you are now?
Oh, I mean, definitely the level of football. I was up in the Pequot, Northern NVL, and they were good games. And I was like, oh, these teams are really good. And then you come down here and you're like, oh, there's a team that's might not be good in the FCIAC, but can beat most of the teams around the state. So you're always looking at a good product on the field, no matter who is playing. So that's definitely it. And in terms of the FCIAC Championship, I mean, 10 games for only 2 teams, it's not fair to the other teams. But again, it's the CIAC's handcuffing by putting the restriction on the 10 games. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So.
Oh, we're excited as well, and it'll be here tomorrow, in fact. And before I let both of you go, and of course you'll have predictions for us later on, do you have a quick thought about kind of the breakdown of tomorrow?
This is the hardest game I can ever remember trying to predict, and I think a lot of it is because neither team's been tested. I think you could say there's been one competitive half the 2 teams combined have played, and that was the second half of Greenwich-New Canaan, and that comes with an asterisk because of the emotional component with John Marinelli coaching against his father.
Right.
I'm curious to see if either team tries to use their run game a little bit more than we're expecting. We'll talk all about the passing game. Will either team try to establish the run? Darien, obviously, with Shelby Grant, has one of the best running backs in the league. And Timmy Graham actually can use the short passing game almost like a rushing attack. So there are so many stray angles that we've all beaten to death. I'm really curious to see is Lou Marinelli or Rob Trifone looking to use the run a little bit more than we're expecting them to.
That's been kind of my thinking. Pete, what do you think about tomorrow?
I'm hoping for a close game, or we can just continue the streak of everything that's been going on this year. But, you're hoping for a close game with any championship, maybe a little back and forth. But I really do think defenses are going to play a lot more of a factor than people are going to think. Everyone's been talking about Collins and Grahams, and rightfully so, and all their weapons. But I've been really impressed with the Darien defense this year, the times that I've seen them. And I really think the defenses are going to play a much bigger factor in this game than a lot of people think.
Shout out to Torrington, by the way.
Absolutely. My Red Raiders, L playoffs.
I promised. All right, they'll be back for some predictions and so on as well. So much more to do on this show, but our thanks to Pete Paguaga and Dave Rudin.
Thanks,
Across we go to Dave.
Thank you, Rob. I'm here with Don Eng, Steve Bono, and Tim Murphy of the HAN Network, and we're going to talk a little bit about Turkey Bowl. But first, I want to talk to Tim about Ridgefield. Tim's the sports editor at the Ridgefield Press, and the Ridgefield Tigers, they have Danbury tonight. Danbury, that's a game on paper they should win, and they're still alive in the hunt for Class AA. What do you think of their chances?
Well, I like their chances tonight. About the state, it's going to take some work. Obviously they've got to win their game. Easiest courses for them is if Staples or West Haven lose. Mm-hmm. But if those teams win, you're really going to rely on bonus points and other matchups. It's going to be out of Ridgefield's hands. So all they can do tonight is beat Danbury, which you figure they will, but you never know. And then see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, that's why they play the games, right?
Right.
That's in case of Danbury, the way the state system works, you'll get 100 points for a win and 10 points for bonus. But that's not going to do them. That's not going to bring their average up at all. So they do need help there. What's changed from them? I saw them the first week of the season against New Canaan, and New Canaan dominated them like New Canaan's dominated everybody. What's changed for Ridgefield since then?
I think what's changed is they haven't played New Canaan again. Besides that, though, no, they really adjusted to Joe Arceri's done a great job. The interim head coach took over, and that was their first game of the season. If they played New Canaan now, it probably wouldn't beat them, but it would probably be a better game. And Ridgefield's just gotten better and better. They found a balance between the passing and the running, and Drew Fowler, the quarterback, first-year starter, is just having a brilliant season. They've got 4 wide receivers that can all beat you. So it's a very balanced offense, and the defense, good line. So it's been a pleasant surprise, a big turnaround from last year with 2 wins.
Yeah, definitely a big step forward for them. And I'm going to turn over to Steve here.
Yes.
You've done a number of these turkey bowls. Tell me about the turkey bowl, the atmosphere, what you like about it.
Well, it's really the whole school, and it's more the community turns out as well. But half the stands are the kids, and you'd think that everyone in the Darien High School was turning up, and
it's the Blue Wave super fans.
Yeah,
right?
and in the most natural sense, turning on, going crazy, absolutely nuts, and there's no atmosphere like it probably right throughout the school year. It's fantastic. It's like a big party. Seems like a big party, but Darien has not had anything like that this season. In fact, if this is a game where those super fans, stay the whole game and have a reason to and go crazy for the whole game, that'll be a first, because Darien hasn't had a very good time. They've had their way, they've had a wonderful season, but it hasn't been very much fun for the kids despite their winning, as ironic as that is, because their fans are gone halfway through the game. They've got these tremendous fans that show up, but there's not much. The game's over at halftime.
And the starters are out at that point. New Canaan's been in the same bag in that sense, and that all their games have been blowouts. The starters come out, so even with all these great numbers the two teams are putting up, they're doing it really in a half.
Right,
right. Don, do you think that's a problem for teams coming into this, because they really haven't been challenged? Dave Rudin was saying about the second half of the Greenwich game, and that's really, for New Canaan anyway, that was the only game that they were challenged. And I don't think Darien was.
Right. I mean, you always wonder, a team that sort of rolled through the season the way these two teams have, you always wonder what happens when they run into an opponent that's as well trained, well coached, and has the ability they do. Are they going to rise to the occasion, or are they going to do a Ronda Rousey faceplant on the turf? Who knows? But I think the other thing is that when you have teams like this that also haven't played a full game, is conditioning an issue? My guess is no. And in any case, both teams are going to be in the same boat anyway, because neither team has really had to really dig deep in the second half and pull a game out. So it's a bit of unknown, and that's what makes it interesting.
That last year, Mark Vanchek for Darien really did a number on Michael Collins and the New Canaan offense.
So did the Triffones in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about a number.
With the tip and the interception. What do you think
they did Roman numerals on him?
What do you think New Canaan's going to need to do to slow down a Vanchek, or can they?
I don't know. I really don't. I was talking to Tim about that, and it's football, and you don't shadow people like in hockey. You stick somebody on their numbers. I was thinking almost the best lineman on New Canaan should line up next to the center and maybe drop back and take care of Collins, you know what I mean? As his bodyguard, because otherwise, good luck against Ivanchuk.
Going to need to put.
He'll eat you alive. He will.
Oh, like the punt, the personal protectors up front there have in the shotgun snap. You might need to.
I think he needs that, and maybe double teamed, because Ivanchuk is really a monster this year.
I would think you'd need 2 people to stop him, definitely. What's the key matchup here?
Yeah, I think it's Ivanchuk and Darien secondaries. They were a good secondary.
Yeah.
You've got to put pressure on Collins, obviously. I don't know if he's gotten that much pressure this year, but that's going to be a key for Darien, getting to him, and they've got the perfect guy to get to him in Ivanchuk.
Yes, yeah, and then of course Michael Collins has been on target all year with 46 touchdowns, closing in on a state record of 51, and we'll see. He could get there as soon as tomorrow, but with a couple more games going on in the States.
Ivanchuk's going to really have to come through to push the balance, because Collins is so good. They're really going to rely on Ivanchuk being Ivanchuk tomorrow.
Definitely. All right, we're going to take another break here, and we'll be right back on the HAN Network.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332. And online at stratfordsmile.com.
Here at the Darien Sports Shop, we are very excited about our newly redesigned men's department. Gentlemen, if you're shopping for work, weekend, or wedding, we've got the latest styles and trends inside our spacious new department just for you. We have vast selections from Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Johnny O, Duckhead, barber, and so much more. And you can even walk out of the store in the new Wolverine 1,000-mile men's boot. Conveniently located with free and easy parking at 1127 Post Road, Darien, Connecticut. Or shop us online at dariensport.com.
Find over 1,000 special stories at Hospital for Special Surgery. Go to hss.edu/backinthegame.
I was jogging 5 months after my cartilage tear.
Skiing a year after hip surgery.
And playing grandma 4 weeks after hip replacement.
One special hospital, 1,000 special stories. See Connecticut patients at hss.edu/CT.
I'm Denise DiGregoli, the host of The Drive on the HAN Network. Join me Tuesdays for some motivational, intelligent talk with a little humor as we visit with people who live their lives mindfully. Tune in to The Drive live on Tuesdays, 12:30, here on the HAN Network.
The 2015 FCIAC Football Championship on Thanksgiving morning will match the New Canaan Rams and the Darien Blue Wave. It's the 50th anniversary edition of the big game, as well as the annual Turkey Bowl. The HAN Network is your exclusive home for all of the action. Our coverage will begin at 8 a.m. with FCIAC Championship game day, followed by pregame coverage at 10. Kickoff is at 10:30. The live video streaming broadcast is available on pay-per-view at championships.han.network. Welcome back to Boyle Stadium. Our reporters roundtable is now morphing into a conversation with the executive secretary of the FCIAC, and there are some people who have seen all 50 games more or less. This gentleman was right there at the very beginning, John Cookso. And Mr. Cookso, thank you for your time.
Anytime, Rob. I'm really enjoying the live streaming of all of our games, not only football, but field hockey and soccer and volleyball. And, I'm really happy to see so many kids exposed to the media.
There's been a lot of talk on this show about this not being the greatest football season any of us have seen, but we all love the game. Bottom line, your thoughts as we get ready for tomorrow.
Well, I think we've seen some pretty good football in Fairfield County this year, except there are two teams that stood out way over above everyone else, and that's New Canaan and Darien. They're exceptionally good, and I think that they probably could have beaten most teams that have played in the Fairfield County Championship since 1966. They're really good. They're excellent, and I don't know whenever I've seen so many Division I candidates that are on both of these teams, which, sometimes you'll have a great team, but no Division I candidates.
John, you've seen a lot of these games, obviously, over the years. There's been a lot of changes. You've got turf, you've got the night games and things like that. What's been, in your mind, what's the biggest change you've seen over the last 50 years?
That's a tough question. But one thing is that, I've been down here working these games since 1966. And we've come in here on a grass field when it was going to rain and snow, and we had to put tarp down the night before, and then when we took the tarp off in the morning, all the water was on top. It all got on the field anyhow. So, there were some of the tough times. That first game that you talked about, 1966, there were so many people here that wanted to get into the game, they knocked down the gates on the south end. And we had to clear the stadium before we start selling tickets. And Bennett Salvatore, he was right on when he talked about the 11,000, 12,000. It was 11,000 because we cut off sales at 11,000 tickets. And believe it or not, do you know what those tickets were worth? $1. So the bank deposit was $11,000. But that was a lot of money at that time. And, today it's a lot more expensive, but on Thanksgiving Day it's double time for custodians, double time for police. It's a lot more expensive to run these things than it was years ago. We used to run the FCIAC Championship game with six cops. We have to have 19 here.
Wow.
On this Thanksgiving, and I'm happy. I feel that with 19 police officers, they all do a great job. The fans that come are going to be safe.
The league dates back to 1961. The game didn't first get played until 1966. What was needed to get that first game off and running?
the football coaches wanted it. We had championship games in other sports, baseball, basketball, and so on, and they wanted a championship game, and they settled in on the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and then they became Thanksgiving Day back in the mid '80s, around there, and that's where it stayed. But Stanford High, we couldn't use the stadium here on Thanksgiving Day because Stanford High had a continuing contract with Fairfield Prep to play their annual game, which was on Thanksgiving Day. So that's why the game was played the Saturday before.
Trumbull High School's hosted it a few times, and they did a great job up there. Dunning Field has hosted it. New Canaan has hosted it, I believe, once. Rob and I have talked about this, though. Boyle Stadium seems like it's the place to be for the FCIAC Championship. What are your thoughts on this stadium?
Well, this is a tradition for me. My father was the first coach to coach in here. He started coaching football in 1928, and they didn't. Of course, Stanford High didn't play their games here because this was not a field until the WPA project finished that particular item, and that was about 1938. But he was the first coach to coach in here, and they had a big celebration and so on. And if you look up on the stands, you can see the silver pipes that go straight up. They're not flagpoles. That's where a 150-watt bulb was. And that was the lighting for the stadium, all those 150 watt
Oh my gosh.
bulbs. So you could tell it was kind of dark. I wasn't, I was just a toddler at that time. But I remember this as, from stories from my father, that this was a skating pond. It's called Betts Pond. And all the water came down from the hill around here on both sides. And it, it was there were springs in here and everything else, and filled the place up with water, and everyone would skate here. So it was, to me, it's a tradition of playing the FCIAC Championship here. Now, let's see, why didn't we go back to New Canaan? We were at New Canaan, and New Canaan is a beautiful facility, absolutely beautiful. You can't beat that scoreboard. It's like a college scoreboard, or better than most colleges. But it only holds about 3,500 at the most. And when you get 4,000, 5,000, now you're getting into a lot of trouble. And there's not anywhere where they can stand. Now here at Boyle Stadium, the seats hold 5,000, but there's 15, 20 feet off the field that you can stand. And we'll tomorrow we will be, or today we're going to be 5, 6 deep around the track, standing to see this game. Now, now what happened to Trumbull? Well, Trumbull is a beautiful facility also, but we had to play the game at night up there, and we felt that having a game at 7 o'clock at night or 7:30, depending, not much later. We wouldn't go any later than 7:30, and at this time of year, it really gets cold, and the traffic going north on a Friday night is unbelievable on the Merritt Parkway. So, we felt that the crowd that this game should generate was kept low because people my age wouldn't go in that kind of weather. I had to be there, but most people, that are, really don't like the cold would not go up there and fight that traffic, for one thing. And then, so we decided that although Trumbull was really, because their seats hold 5,000 also, it was a great facility. It was also inconvenient for a lot of people at the time of the year in the coldness at night. So we decided that we would play the championship game on the Saturday before Thanksgiving, the way it used to be.
Right.
Okay, and it would be 12 noon. However, if the two teams that qualify had a regularly scheduled game on Thanksgiving, we would use that for two things. One, the regularly scheduled game, and our championship game. So that's where we are today.
And I'm glad it is here again today. Now, tomorrow will be the 50th. Tomorrow will be your last as executive secretary. Your emotions as you go into that, and what do you see for the future?
I'm not sure. The state has restricted all high schools in Connecticut to do a maximum number or schedule a maximum number of games of 10. Okay? Now, that includes any extra season games that you might schedule in your league. But if a team qualifies for the state tournament, they can add up to three additional games. So the most any team would play would be 13 if they reached the finals. Okay, so I'm not sure. There's a committee working on that right now, whether we schedule 9 games in the league and leave one date open for the championship game, or schedule 10 and bag the championship game.
How about your emotions about tomorrow?
I don't like it. Oh, you mean tomorrow?
Yeah,
I don't like the concept. Because it's such tradition, the game. I would like to see a 9-game schedule. I don't see anything wrong with playing 9 games. I don't. And tomorrow we're going to have a great crowd. The temperature's 49, 8:30 in the morning, 58 by noontime. I think we're going to have a fantastic crowd. So, my predictions are it's going to be a great game.
That's what I'm looking forward to, Dave.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. And look, their sports reporters can't control themselves. They're out there playing football right now.
Gotta love that.
To that stuff.
John, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, as always, for everything you've done for this league.
Thank you, Rob, and nice to be with you guys and my partner here, Dave, on our website, who does such a great job. People talk about our website all over the state because what other league in the state has a website that keeps everything up to date every day?
None that I can think of, and he does
and
it.
He puts
He's
it
the best.
24/7 all the time. No matter when I call him, late at night, early in the morning, he answers that phone.
He does a great job, and you've done a great job as well. Thank you both, gentlemen. We will take a break. We'll come back to Boyle Stadium. Predictions still to do as we roll on right after this on the HA Network.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
Football University, the nation's leading football training experience, is now accepting applications for its 2015 camps. Our elite faculty of NFL coaches and top professionals teach position-specific on the field and in the classroom to improve your football IQ and help you reach your full potential as a player. Apply today at footballuniversity.org. Football University, where technique plus talent beats talent alone.
While the temperatures are cooling down, the fall bite is heating up. Albies, bonita, blackfish, alligator blues, and stripers are following the large schools of bait that are abundant in the Long Island Sound. If you love the New England coast during autumn, this is the time to be on the water. The latest from Shimano, Quantum, Avet, Hoagie, Phase 2, and more are in stock and ready to go at the Dock Shop. And don't mind those fall breezes with jackets, hats, gloves, and fleece from Grundens and Stormer. The Dock Shop will keep you warm and dry. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, now in 2 locations, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Back to school means back to busy, and Stewart's Market can save you precious time by stocking all of your favorite essentials under one roof. For a healthy start to school, we have all the ingredients. Walter Stewart's, your family-owned fresh local market, 229 Elm Street and at stewartsmarket.com.
Carl Chevrolet is proud to sponsor HAN Network's coverage of the area's best high school sports. No matter the sport, competition in the FCIAC is spirited, so get out and cheer on your favorite team. If you can't make it to the game, be sure to bring HAN Network with you to keep up with the action. Visit Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
The 2015 FCIAC Football Championship on Thanksgiving morning will match the New Canaan Rams and the Darien Blue Wave. It's the 50th anniversary edition of the big game, as well as the annual Turkey Bowl. The HAN Network is your exclusive home for all of the action. Our coverage will begin at 8 a.m. with FCIAC Championship game day, followed by pregame coverage at 10. Kickoff is at 10:30. The live video streaming broadcast is available on pay-per-view at championships.han.network. All right, it's a little cramped over here, but it's time for some predictions as we come back to Boyle Stadium. All right, Scott, you've got the first microphone. You and Dave, let's talk about it tomorrow. What? Predict? Why?
I think it will be New Canaan 24, Darien 21. I think that Peter Swindell kicks a field goal. I think he's the difference here today. And I look for the defensive backfield to be the biggest part of the game for both sides.
Dave.
This is the hardest game I can remember predicting. I have a hard time seeing either offense being neutralized. I think there's going to be a lot of passing. I think we're going to see a lot of points. I think Graham and Collins are going to find receivers in the end zone. Only because I've been voting Darien 2 and New Canaan 3. I'm going to go 35-34 Darien. Something's going to happen on an extra point to New Canaan, and that's going to be the difference.
Ooh, all right. Good stuff. Pete.
All right.
Go ahead. Take the mic.
Yeah. All right. So I got Darien 21, New Canaan 17. I think defense, like I said earlier, is going to play a big role in this game. Not a lot of people are talking about it. Everyone's talking about Collins and Graham and all the weapons. But it's definitely the defense are going to play a big role. 21-17 Darien.
All right. Good stuff. Sean Patrick Boley.
You realize Torrington's not playing this game, right? I know that was really tough for him to make. Well, Scott Erickson decided to overhear me before and decided to pick my game exactly to a T. Late Swindell field goal. So I'm going to stick with stick with New Canaan. Even though I vote Darien number 1 on the poll and New Canaan number 2, I'm going to go with New Canaan because I think they're due. It goes back and forth. Been Darien's year the last, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. It's going to be in the 20s. There's going to be a feeling out process, kind of like what there was last year. I think Darien's defense is the best in the state, but I also think New Canaan's offense is just awesome. I'm going to go with 28-26 New Canaan. Thanks, Scott, for stealing mine. If it is 24-21, I also picked that.
All right. Donning.
And you just screwed up their graphic that they had for you, too.
The graphic.
Well, it was 21 or 24-21 until he stole mine. So.
Donald Eng.
I'm going to go very evenly matched game. I'm going to go Darien 31, New Canaan 20. Just too much pass rush. I'm counting on a strip sack and maybe a scoop and score to get that 11-point margin.
All right. Dave Stewart, you've got the HAN guys. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Rob. And we're going to do the same thing here. We'll start with Bill. What do you think of the game? What's your prediction?
I've been voting Darien ahead of New Canaan all year, so I'll keep doing that here. I think they have a little bit more defense. I think New Canaan's having Peter Swindell is going to hurt him a little bit because he's going to kick 2 field goals, and that's going to hurt them because they're going to lose 28-27.
Wow. Okay. Mike?
I had Darien 28-21. I think both teams are probably going to try to not commit as many penalties as they did last year in the state final, which is a difference that kept the scoring down. I'm sticking with the Blue Wave by a touchdown.
It's all these one-score predictions here. Go over here, Rocco. What do you think?
Well, I'd have to go with Darien 24, New Canaan 21. Granted, they both have high-powered offenses, but I think they're going to concentrate on neutralizing each other. So,
okay, defenses play a bigger role there. So, Tim?
I think I'm going to go with Mike Suppy, the brilliant mind over here. 28-21, Darien, Ivanchik, 3 sacks, Collins 2 touchdown passes, and 1 arrest.
Steve.
Well, New Canaan's not been able to get arrested the last 3 years. I don't see how they don't go in there with the advantage of just needing to win so bad, New Canaan, that it gives those kids, remember they're kids, that last psych up they need. But I'm going with Darien 31-19. Big day for Menikis. Big day for Ivanchik. That's me.
That's surprising. Darien Times sports editor, right? Goes
Who else am I going to pick? Who else am I going to pick?
All
Really?
right. Rob, I'll throw it back to you.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. Now we've got to head off to some video that was shot earlier today. Now, this is pretty cool stuff. We go all the way back basically to year number 1, although they were here today, so we don't have that kind of we didn't get the flux capacitor for us today. But we've got Bobby Valentine, we've got Rick Robustelli, and we've got Bennett Salvatore. Great chat with them. Let's take a look at it now. Well, we're joined by 3 members of FCIAC royalty, if you will. Bobby Valentine, Rick Robustelli, Bennett Salvatore. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you all for your time. And take me back, Bobby, to 1966 right here at this facility.
Well, I'd love to take you back if I could remember, Rob. But actually, I remember this facility as being the palace, the place to be, the most exciting place in my life at that time, and we were playing these guys who were undefeated, I believe, at the time. I remember coming in our bus, getting out that entrance over there, and looking and seeing a group of people. I mean, there's more people than I've ever seen in my life, huh?
A sea of people.
A sea of people.
A sea of people.
Yeah.
Of really green and white and green and gold.
Everywhere.
And it gave you goose pimples, to see it. And for us, it was like a Super Bowl. It was just a game, but then it seemed like it was a Super Bowl.
More than a Super Bowl. We got off that bus. You guys came in from another direction, I think, but I remember us jogging. We would get off and jog around the field. And there were layers of people. Everywhere you looked, they were piled up on the walls. Probably more than, there weren't as many as we really think there were.
No, I think there were. But what I remember the most was Ricky and I took a ride by the stadium at 7:30 in the morning, and there were people lined up getting tickets for the game. The gates weren't open yet, but they were lined up outside.
And let me just interject, because Stanford Catholic, these guys, beat Rippewam, Mr. Valentine, 32-6 that day, right here at Boyle Stadium, that very first game. And what went right? What went right for Stanford Catholic?
After halftime, it went right.
Yeah.
At halftime,
6-0.
6-0.
6-0. It was 6-0 at halftime.
Ryan fumbled in the end zone. Dominic Carlucci and I, the snap, I said, all I have to be is the GOAT of this game. 6-0.
It turned out I was the GOAT of the game because I think I fumbled about 9 times and had three kicks blocked in the second half.
But you know what you remember? I mean, it's the guys you're with, but I remember on Friday night, Howard Cosell was coming into his own, certainly at that time. And he called my dad at home on Friday night. And he said, Andy, I'd like to come to the game. He said, I hear Catholics pretty good. They're playing Rippewam. They both undefeated. And he said, I hear this kid Valentine, this Bobby Valentine's a pretty good player on Rippewam. I'd like to come to the game. I'll never forget it. It was like, are you kidding me, Howard? You're calling to come to the game at Boyle Stadium tomorrow?
And the word I always hear is 10, 12,000 people were here, Bennett?
I believe the exact figure was someplace 11,000 and change, whatever that was.
Okay,
but it was a sight to behold. There was not a space within this area that you could sit. There was standing room only in the stands.
And what a great place this is when it is like that.
It's breathtaking. There's history here, and we were part of that history. And I can go back and read about uncles and cousins that played in the 40s and 50s, and it's kind of cool to be part of that.
Bobby, as we look back, you said you fumbled about 9 times, maybe not that many, but what happened that day?
I wish I could remember the whole thing. It was a blur. It was spinning really quickly, and you've heard it rehashed a few times, but I know there was at least a punt blocked or snap over my head, and I think I fumbled right over there going around end one time. I don't really have the whole thing down. I was looking for the article so I can read it and refresh my mind, but all I know is it brought people together. It brought this city together. It created friendships, not only from people who played together, but people who played against each other. And regretfully, some of my best friends who are on the team are gone now. The co-captain Darryl Atterbury is gone, and Bobby Kuchta and Joey Pace and many others have passed away. But I think some of the greatest memories of their life were right here on this field, and they took place that day.
And Stanford Catholic was so good in the late 60s, and Stanford football was so great in the late 60s. Now you've got Trinity Catholic, which, of course, Stanford Catholic has evolved into, in a matter of speaking, and they're right there looking really good this year. And that, for you Stanford Catholic guys, is that something that you're proud of?
Absolutely, to see them come back, because there was a lull, and they've come back the last couple of years, and to see them be in the state hunt and be around it makes you feel good. And when you go back to where we were back 50 years ago, I hate to say that, it was a town thing. The school, the administration, the principals, the kids in the school, the John Kutzos of the world who dedicated their lives to the FCIAC were part of that, the Al Shanons, the Bob Harans, and it was a special time, and I think you grow to appreciate what we had at that time. And it's a great era now with electronics, but then it was a little more basic, and everything revolved sort of around the school and people, and it was truly a great time for us.
And Bennett, Stanford was football royalty in Connecticut. I mean, Stanford was almost football central in Connecticut in a lot of ways.
It was, but the reality of it is Bobby Valentine actually put Stanford on the map. I think Bobby was an all-state football player maybe 4 times, at least 3 I know of, sophomore, junior, and senior. So he created the atmosphere of a unique individual in sports. I mean, everybody knew about Bobby. And then just happenstance that we were undefeated at the time, and it, as Ricky said, it was a community affair at that time, something to be proud of. It was an honor to play sports at that time. I'm not so sure it's the same today, but in that era, it was an honor to be part of the football team.
You know what I say always, and Ben, you alluded to it, there were good players on both teams. I mean, and I always say this, and not throwing accolades at Bobby, there was one great player. Bobby was a great player. But Ripwam had good players, the McCrocklins and Johnny Barons. On Catholic, we had Bennett, myself, but we didn't have great players, but we had 10 good, very good players. And when you look back, probably 10 kids went to play Division I football from our team, on one team. 3 from at UConn, Holy Cross, Colgate, Bennett and Rocky at CW Post. Not USC, but 10 kids who went on to play at Division I. That's pretty cool from one high school team. So there were some good players on both teams.
And the names that come out of Stanford, Bobby, you know, yourself, these gentlemen included, the Robustelli family, of course, and Bobby Augustine, who was here before. This really is a great sports town.
It's a great sports town because of the coaches and the people that care about, always cared about the players, always cared about the kids, always cared about not winning and losing, but cared about doing it right rather than wrong. And I'm proud to say that I grew up in Stanford. I'll be put to rest here in Stanford. And for whatever it's worth, you know, all-state quarterback that year in 66, all-state quarterback in 67. He went on to play at UConn with 2 of the other backfield members of the all-state team, I believe, Vinnie Clements and Mike Zito from that 66 team. So, you know, we have some history, but the history that we were part of was only possible because of the great coaches and the great people who were there for us.
And you all were in part, in one form or another, going back to that first game. We're looking now at the 50th game. What do you think as you look into the future? You want to be able to talk about a 51st, 52nd? Bennett, what do you think? You want the future for this game?
Well, I don't think we'll be here for the 100th. I think we
may all be watching somewhere.
We can pretty much count on that, but there's a tradition here, and I certainly hope that tradition carries on for many years because it's healthy. It's healthy with everything going on in society today. It's the one thing that you could count on to bring people together and have a great venue. So I truly hope that it continues.
Bobby?
Really hope it continues. Many memories were created right here, lifelong memories. We're talking about it 50 years later. These kids who play here on Thanksgiving will be talking about it 50 years from now. It's a special time.
Rick, what about you?
When you see tomorrow with Darien and New Canaan, both undefeated, both with good quarterbacks, good with players that are going to go on, traditions in their town, you say, man, that's good. They're going to be here tomorrow, and there'll be 10,000 people here. Isn't that a good situation and a little special thing for us, but also for them and their parents and their schools.
Any prediction for tomorrow?
I don't know. I like them both. I sneak up to New Canaan and watch their practices because I like the spread offense and what they do. But Darien does the same thing, so I'll like watching both offenses tomorrow.
All right. No predictions from anyone. Then you're all going to just enjoy the game.
Prediction is going to be a great game.
There you go. I like the sound of that. And these guys all did well, and not only on the football field. This gentleman knew a thing or two about a baseball and a basketball, so they all did okay in one form or another. But we all think of them today, going back to that first FCIAC Championship game. Our thanks, Bennett Salvatore, Bobby Valentine, Rick Robustelli. We continue on here on the HAN Network. And that was beyond fun talking with those guys. So really a thrill for me to be in the middle of that pack, just talking about the memories and, the past, the present, and the future of this championship game. And the future is tomorrow. Basically, the future is now, Dave.
Oh yeah, well, Back to the Future, right? We had a couple of references today.
It's
already.
all about that.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think if you hear all the predictions and the close games, one-score games, numbers that people are giving, I think that just goes to show these two teams are evenly matched. They've been rolling through everybody. It's hard to get a grasp on where they stand because they've made it look so easy. But maybe they've made it look that easy because they are that good. And it should be fun seeing how they match up against each other. It's got to be great for the kids too, because not having a challenge all year, after a while, it's got to become like, oh, we're just running around out here doing our thing, and it's like practice.
Right about now on FCIAC.net, you should be able to take a look at the 2015 All-Conference team. I won't give it all to you, but I will tell you this. The top two names on the offensive sheet I am looking at, Don, Michael Collins and Timmy Graham. What a shock.
A couple names you're going to be calling quite a bit tomorrow, I suspect.
I feel pretty comfortable with that. And, a couple of other names, Shelby Grant, of course, Kyle Smith, Andrew DeFranco, both of New Canaan, Lucas Niang, the offensive lineman from New Canaan, Andrew Stuber as well from Darien, Colin Minikis from Darien. It's not as much the all-Darien New Canaan show as you might think, but that's just a hint, just only on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that just shows how many weapons they have. I mean, these guys, Minikis, Kyle Smith, Andrew DeFranco, they're really acrobats out there, and they've been at receiver. They've been just awesome.
And by the way, I want to make sure this is a shout-out as well, because two coaches who have done a great job this year in this league, besides Rob Trafone and Lou Marinelli, are Donnie Panipata and Joe Arcieri at Ridgefield. Donnie Panipata, of course, from Trinity Catholic. They are the all-conference coaches, so great stuff there. How do you put a wrap on today, Don, and look into tomorrow?
Well, I think the biggest thing you have to look out for, again, as I've been saying all day, it's just pass rush. Can Darien get to Collins? If they can, my prediction's looking pretty good. If they can't, then we have this toss-up game that everyone's looking at.
I kind of agree with you. I think Peter Swindell is a big factor tomorrow.
Peter Swindell is I mean, he's been remarkable. Everybody talks about the records of Ivanchek and Collins. But, Swindell is a record holder of his own. He's got 19 career field goals, which is a state record. As a kicker, he's been nearly perfect in extra points, 38 of 41. And really, I was watching him in practice, and he was kicking 50-yarders at times. And he's got the leg, he's got the distance. He's looking at colleges to play lacrosse, but as Lou Marinelli keeps saying, he could kick at a high level in college.
So tomorrow morning it goes like this: 8 o'clock. You'll be able to watch large chunks of what you saw today, yesterday, and Monday. That'll be between 8 and 10. Then at 10 o'clock, along will come Chris Callan and Dave Stewart. They will have the pregame show live from here at Boyle Stadium. You'll get the